call to order the regular city council meeting of March 9th, 2020. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Mayor Vixen,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bevacqua,
Here.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Here.
Councilmember Keithley,
Here.
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Sage,
Here.
and Councilmember Sylvia.
Here.
Great job. Thank you for that. Well, would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Okay, welcome everybody to a beautiful spring day. First, we're going to have public comments, scheduled and non-scheduled. So if anybody would like to comment on something that's not on the agenda tonight, if you would like to come forward. Come on forward to the mic. Mr. Purdom, welcome.
I'm on behalf of the Rochester Fire Department, and what we'd like to do is donate a check for $10,684 to the Neighborhood House Food Pantry from the Goodfellows and Fire Department paper sale that we had back in December. Since 1984, when we've started this up, we've donated almost $325,000 to the food pantry.
Wow.
So we're very proud of that amount.
I'd like to say thank you to the Goodfellows and to the fire department for this generous annual donation, it seems. And the food pantry really, really needs the cash assistance as well as cans and food because the fresh food we purchase every single week. So every week we purchase 60 gallons of milk, chicken, burgers, so we really, really appreciate the help from the fire department, and thanks on behalf of the board of directors and myself.
Thank you.
Can we just end on a high note?
I was going to say,
That's the best way to start the meeting.
that's a great start. Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, on to a resolution to recognize the 20th anniversary of the Assistant League's resale connection. So I have a proclamation here. I'll be brief. The league established the Resale Connections upscale resale shop in downtown Rochester on March 17th, 2000. The league members rented 204 Main Street and made the space into the warm, welcoming retail space that customers enjoy shopping in today, fostering a high standard of product and friendly service. And since its inception, the shop has contributed to fundraising to embrace the league's mission to clothe, feed, educate, and comfort infants, children, adults, and family. And therefore be it proclaimed on this day, March 9th, the mayor of the city of Rochester and city council hereby proclaims the city's recognition of the Resale Connection for 20 years of service to the community. So congratulations. Come on up to the...
Hi, my name is Cindy Guerreri, and I'm president of Assistance League. And I'd like to also introduce Karen Koval, who's our chair of our store, which is the Resale Connection. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'd like to put a plug in to come out and shop. We have plenty of women's clothing and home and decor items, so come and check us out. We're at 4th and Main, 204 South Main.
Thank you. And when's the grand opening, the 20th anniversary?
Well, we're having a new ribbon cutting next Monday at 4 o'clock, and so you're all welcome to come out, and we'll have some refreshments, wine, and get some snack goodies at 4 o'clock. And then we're going to be celebrating at our membership meeting the next day, which is on Tuesday at the Rochester Community House. We're going to have a little birthday party for our members, celebrating all our department heads and all the people that donate and come out to volunteer for us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just
Councilmember
like to
Peterson.
add, I was a member as well before I got real busy, but that is an incredible organization that all these ladies, it's all volunteer. So everything that they do is all volunteer. So and the causes that they have worked all this for has been amazing to see what they've done. So Operation School Bell is one of the awesome ones that I've participated in, and I thank you all very much for what you do.
Thank you. All right, next is the consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 24th, 2020.
Motion?
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Peterson. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
All right, very good. Next is approval of the consent agenda. We have a few things. First is consideration of a special event application from the PSD to hold the Deck Art event on Thursday and Friday, May 14th and 15th in the downtown area. Next is consideration of a special event application from Rochester Hills Christian School to hold the Run for Christian Education on Thursday, April 9th. The run will be held on the Clinton River Trail starting at Rochester University. Next is consideration of a special event application from St. John Lutheran Church to hold Praise in the Park on Sunday, August 23rd. I think that's a tradition. Next is consideration of special event application from Suburban Hockey Foundation to hold the Onyx Tailgate Tent Party on April 1 through 6 during the USA Hockey National Tournament. Next is a review of the updated event calendar. And last but not least is the authorization of the high service well pump repairs in the amount of $17,700.
Motion to approve with all except the last one.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson,
Support.
support by Councilmember Keithley for A through E. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to know, when was the last time we had to, wait for Sandy to get up here. Last time we had to make these repairs, or have we, do we have much life left on these after we make the repairs?
Of the 4 pumps that there are, we've repaired 3 of them already, and that's good for 10 to 15 years. So this is the last one that has not had that pump
Awesome.
work done. So
Okay.
once this is done, we should still have some more years to go.
Great, awesome. Motion to approve?
Motion by Councilmember Peterson,
Support.
supports by Councilmember Salvia. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on to old business and table items. As you can see, we're going to have a discussion of the landmark tree removal at 913 Rose Lawn. And then later on, we have a couple things to talk about a resolution establishing a moratorium, and then also more talk about the tree issue itself. But this was brought up in the last meeting and is pending. And I think there was a correspondence that came out this afternoon. Mr. City Manager?
That item is actually in regards to a different topic,
Right.
so.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
So not to this particular topic. I'll bring that up unless there was another one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so council discussion on the Rose Lawn. Councilmember Albrecht.
We did receive an email from the homeowner.
Right.
I think that's
That's
what
what I-
you
that's
were
what I-
referring
that's
to
what I
there.
meant.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, okay.
Thank you.
I've been, obviously, we've talked about this issue quite a bit, and thank you, Mike, for your email that we received today. As I mentioned in previous meetings, I've been to the house, I've been to the basement, I've looked at that tree, and my feeling is, while I will support the removal of the tree, I would not support reducing the amount of the tree canopy repayment. There are options that are available to you. I know you own 2 homes, and part of the, is it 8,300, Nick? 8,400. The 8,400 could be applied to putting trees on those properties to reduce the amount, which would also increase the value of the home for you and your children going forward. And then I would be open to a repayment plan over X number of years to do that. With that, I would support the tree removal, the repayment of the tree fund of $8,400 over a period of not to exceed 10 years. I would make the motion, if I can, to approve the removal of the tree with a repayment plan of up to 10 years with the ability to reduce that amount by putting trees onto either the property you live in right now or the property you're going to be going into when you sell your property, because that'll improve the appearance of the whole street, which is we're going to have a big gap there, and I'd like to see trees there. What's the term? Deciduous. I should have gone, I like that better. You know, we don't want a row of arborvitaes between the houses, so that's the motion I'd like to make.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht,
Support.
support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion? Councilmember Peterson.
Okay, so I guess I won't be in support of that motion for a few reasons. Number one, because I think the tree, if it's causing harm to the house, private property rights step in and they should be able to take the tree down. The cost, though, I think is where the question is now. And we have a huge disparity between everything that's going on in our community with the takedown of trees. So in one project that was just brought before Planning Commission, there was 166 trees proposed to be taken down, okay? So I would assume those are trees that are of size, you know, that would have been the size that you would have been planting for our requirement of 7 inches or more. There's no cost to take those down, okay? The argument has always been tree canopy here in the city, and then we would allow somebody to take down 166, not counting the ones that have already been taken down. And there's no fees, no nothing. Our ordinance does not allow for us to collect any fees for any of those trees right now, but only on a landmark tree do we force a figure that is extremely high on all parties bringing them forth. So I think that we need to either come up with this first before we bring the people back to us, because we're going to tell them the same thing, or not make a solution that we should have for all parties that are involved, instead of it being different for everybody that comes forth. So even though there's options that were written in there to do an extended period of time, people don't have the money, and it is costing them money to fix their home and do different things. It's like a taxation without representation here that we are doing, especially at the high rate that we charge at $350 per inch that is determined on the size of the tree. Also, so we don't have a plan in place either to appropriately use the tree fund money that we have been receiving, and the options to have trees just put back on somebody's property does not allow us or them the rights to choose what to do on their property. We're now setting a precedent that no one can have arborvitaes on their property to separate or have as privacy, which a lot of properties do throughout the area. I've been in many homes, I've told you in the past as well, that have had a lot of major damage done to them because of a neighbor's tree, and the other homeowner is always responsible. In the city itself, any of the trees that are in the city's right-of-way, if they were to fall on any of the properties for whatever reason, the city has an immunity to that, to where the homeowner is going to have to take care of it. So when it comes to a landmark tree and the designations of them, if they are causing harm to homes, there should be private property rights that take place first. Thank you.
Councilmember Salvia.
Thank you. Number one, I look forward to some additional discussion around our tree ordinances and landmark trees. I think all of council is looking for a more proactive approach around trees, so I look forward to that. And then secondly, a question. So with the 10 years payment in the motion, what happens if the homeowner sells the home?
That goes to the next one.
I think it goes onto the.
So it would be a lien, city attorney?
Yes, it would be in the form of a special assessment district, so that would be a recordable instrument, much like your parking payment in lieu of parking for the
Yep.
we've done that. That would be the same. It would be filed against the property.
Okay, I support this.
Further discussion? I'd just like to say that I feel for the applicant. We've gone, around and around on this. We still need to get something done, which we're gonna, I hopefully start on this again later in this meeting. I will be a no on this because I think that the amendment is what it is, and I don't think we should be changing it for this person at this time. Other people didn't have the 10-year thing, so I don't think that's fair, so I will vote no. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
No.
Bevacqua,
No.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
No.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, on to legislative deliberation of second reading and adoption of Board of Review ordinance amendments. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Albrecht. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
It's a
Yes.
no-brainer.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is a discussion of the a resolution establishing a moratorium prohibiting consideration of landmark tree removal applications pending completion of ordinance amendment consideration. And I think so this is a moratorium to put a hold on this while we're redoing this amendment. So is there discussion? Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, so, I don't know why we would do that, because all we've done so far is keep pushing this down there. I don't want to put a moratorium on there if we have another issue come before us that is going to place more harm on a property owner and them, that they have to wait for us to decide something that we've been working on for quite a long time.
Further discussion? Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it is prudent that we take a little break and actually make the appropriate changes to the ordinance. We've gotten here because we haven't had a solution. So let's take a step back and do what's right.
Is that a motion?
Sure, that's a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Sage.
I'll support that, and just to clarify, the motion is for a 90-day moratorium.
Correct.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Sage, support by Councilmember Salvia for a 90-day moratorium on the legacy landmark trees. Discussion. Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, so we've actually had this in the ordinance, and it was changed to where we had the options from the very beginning to do that. We stated that with Attorney Crott back when we had the property on Ludlow Woodward as well, to where we always had that option. It's never been exercised, and then it was added to add in the fines and the fees, or whatever you want to call them, in there and give them options to pay. However, everything we keep overlooking is that if somebody comes before us with a hardship and they come before us with an issue with the tree that is causing damage to the house, we're still holding them accountable to that charge, as well as the charge of even having to take down the tree, which in essence, those trees now, between the fee and that, is $15,000 to $16,000. So there's a lot of hardship, because I don't know where everyone thinks everyone's going to come up with the money to do this, but I don't think we're looking at this at the right reason, because just because it's $16,000 and you give somebody 10 years to pay for it doesn't mean that they can afford to pay for it, number one, or continue to pay for it, and then put the onus on them over that in the end when it is damaging their property. and then to question the integrity of people who come before us with these issues to take them down. So if this can actually be resolved in 90 days in a different fashion without putting all the restrictions on them of telling them what they can plant and where they can plant them and how they can do it, and the fees are not going to be so astronomical that you tax people out of their homes to do this or cause them to incur more damages, it would be different.
Councilmember Albrecht?
I also will support this. I think some of the facts that were just stated, there was no $16,000 fee charged to any homeowner. The fee is $8,400. I think the other $8,000 where Councilmember Peterson is coming from is the homeowner's cost to take the tree down, which has been negotiated down dramatically thanks to his contacts. But I don't want to bring in individuals. I think the argument for this moratorium is the argument that Councilmember Peterson is making. We're talking about these every time they come before us, and we are making exceptions from case to case. And I like cadence, I like predictability, I like consistency, and I think in 90 days we can come up with that, along with some plans that I talked about last meeting, working with Nick to work on the tree canopy. How do we use those funds? How do we give it back to the citizens, the money that comes in, that we can replace our tree canopy for the next 10 years or 20 years? So I'll support this moratorium, and I hold ourselves accountable to, if we can do it before 90 days, I'd like to get this done in 60 days to come up with something that we can all live with, and it's consistent application to the citizens who come before us going forward. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua.
I just wanted to point out that I think it's highly reasonable to expect that if someone's claiming that there's structural damage being done to their property, that in order for us to assess that from a council perspective, it would be important to have a professional opinion, perhaps from a structural engineer. And I don't think in asking for something like that, we're questioning the integrity of anybody.
Councilmember Peterson? Last comment?
No, it's not the last one, because I have a right to discuss this. I actually think that, number one, I was referring to the total cost that it would cost a homeowner to take down a landmark tree. And you're putting that burden on them when it is written, and we approved it a couple meetings back regarding the ordinance of looking into, taking into account the hardship that people have. And to bring in a structural engineer and all of that, I don't know where our councils are going today with being judge and jury for making decisions on private property rights, which is still, this is what this is. This is a private property right. And we've done this with the trees for a long time. Other people have not been given the opportunity of the 10 years. So after the first one came through here, then we ended up putting that in. Instead of doing a moratorium or actually doing something in the beginning to have fairness across the board. It was written to have hardship already in there, and it was up to us to hear the case that comes before us and to make judgment then and vote on that at that time. But no one wanted to take any of that on. Here we still don't want to take it on. You'll do it, but no, as long as you pay and you do what we tell you and everything else. So, excuse me?
I was going to say, we are taking it on.
I know, but I was still speaking. I did not need to be interrupted. I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Thank you. So I think at this point in time, either we get something, I don't want to see another homeowner burdened with a hardship when they submitted a letter of hardship to us. And we don't take any of this into account at all. So all of a sudden, we just want to change the ordinance and make sure they do this, that, or the other, anything that we tell them, and totally violate private property rights.
Further discussion? I will also support the moratorium. I think we need to take a step back and work on this. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
All right. We have a moratorium. On to reports from regular business, and guess what we're going to talk about? Discussion of potential changes to the landmark tree ordinance. Mr. City Manager, do you kind of want to briefly kind of go over what we're going to talk about?
Yep.
As council has requested, and we've seen tonight already an initial discussion on trees, just a quick summary. Over the last 2 years, there has been an increase of requests to remove landmark trees. Staff and council continue to hear different reasons and issues about the requests. Staff has analyzed council's previous comments and hope to really basically have a consistent process. I listed the removal component of the current ordinance that's on the front and back of page 67 and continues on 68. And then I have listed out for several options for council's consideration, as well as a few recommendations. So just for the benefit of everybody here, I'll just kind of highlight through those. The first is that all requests and decisions to remove a landmark tree should rest with the city council. Next, the cost within the formula that determines the value evaluation of a landmark tree should be updated every 5 years, starting with the year 2020. It's my understanding that we have not, as a council, looked at the evaluation component of the formula since it was created or established about 10 years ago. Certain trees have root systems that branch out while others go straight down. To address council's concerns with the trees damaging a house foundation, perhaps using a phrase or statement like, City Council strongly encourages and may require an outside consultant evaluation at the expense of the petitioner when considering requests to remove a landmark tree, could be a compromise that council considers. However, council may want to also consider for tree species that are known to have aggressive roots that are likely to do damage to a house's foundation if the landmark tree is 10 feet or closer to a house that is outside a consultant's evaluation might not be necessary. So if there is, and Nick might be able to help me as our local forester, certain trees, let's call them like tap roots, and I don't know if one's maybe an oak tree that goes straight down, and maybe a walnut tree might be one that actually branches out. The oak tree that is going down could be 10 feet away and not cause damage to the house compared to a walnut that does have these aggressive roots that could be at the 10 feet that could be damaging a foundation. Next, amendment to the ordinance to require the replacement value be part of the approval process, but allow payments to be made over, and staff is recommending 10 years. And then noting if a property is sold, any remaining balance would need to be paid into the city's tree fund within 10 business days. Again, as Attorney Crott noted, it would be through the special assessment and then the lien placed on the house. Replacing the words, all species of trees are permitted as replacement trees with something like, only deciduous trees or evergreens, which are classified as trees, not bushes, be eligible to count towards the replacement value required for removing a landmark tree. Further, adding words such as, or phrases such as, a maximum of 10% of arborvitaes may be permitted and the total cost should be considered. And finally, staff is recommending the commitment of 2 community plantings per year in the spring and the fall, which are the appropriate times for planting the trees, which would be based on funding available, and these would actually help with the replacement of our tree canopy as trees would be removed. Again, any and all of these are up for discussion, but these were the recommendation after reviewing council's previous comments.
Right, and I asked the city manager and administration to come up with a list to start the conversation of, and all these had been put out there and talked about, suggested before at public meetings or in conversations. So this is just a kind of starting place to discuss this. For council? Councilmember Keithley?
I have a couple of initial thoughts on this. I think it's just scratching the surface of this issue that we've faced for a long time now. I would like to see some language. 10 years seems like a long period when we're looking at replacing and preserving our tree canopy. It's that 10 years, the trees could get pretty big during that time. So I'd like that to either be lowered or be on a need basis to accommodate families that aren't or really do require that time to pay it back. I'd also like to suggest or ask that these 2 community plantings really be community events, and we can make it more of a celebration like we do on Arbor Day, and we can invite the public to be a part of it because we do celebrate trees in our community, and I think it's very important that they get replanted and we celebrate that replanting as a community because it adds to the value of where we live. And then I'd also like to request that Councilmember Peterson is talking about the elimination of other trees and the ordinance as a whole. I think that needs to be looked at. We can't be, I think giving away, letting people cut down trees without a fee in place because that doesn't seem right to just look at landmark trees. So I'd like to look at the tree ordinance as a whole.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Yeah, I guess just to follow up on that too, what are there limitations on charging for permits for cutting down trees that aren't considered landmark trees? I know currently we allow 3 per year. There's been some questions asked and discussions up here as to what are the parameters, and so that we can think about this in kind of an overarching way. Do we have limitations on that?
Yeah, Nick, if you want to explain maybe some of the limitations, and then Attorney Kratt, we can also, between probably you and me, talk about the defensibility of the policy of the 3 and how other communities and how it's gone through the system and how that's held up.
And I would go just embellish that a little bit. What you don't want is have a court throw out your ordinance. So I think I told you this before I started these 20 years ago, writing them, and all of them had a reasonable amount of trees, and they almost always settled on 3 trees per year. Didn't say without replacement value, it just said 3 trees per year that you're permitted no matter what if they weren't landmark or historic trees. In its purest sense, if you wanted to Ms. Peterson's point, if you wanted to truly say we are serious about tree canopy, then there should be a fee for each tree, even though you can take 3 down, and you have to take that money, and you have to plant it within a year. And we need to have a map, which we're working on right now, where we will plant these to commit to the persons that pay for that fee or pay for that value of that tree, that they will be planted immediately. I mean, that's pure to say we are replacing it immediately. So at the end of the year, the tree fund should have $0 every year because you're planting the trees as the money comes in. So that's the hardest way. And Jeff, you can talk about, we can, for a permit, so that wouldn't necessarily be a permit. That would be the fee, the value of each tree you're taking down. A permit would only be reasonable to charge the dollar figure for me or the, administration to actually write the permit, because then you are making it a tax without representation. So the fee would have to be straight up, not that much money, to be honest with Blaine and I talked about. It might be $10, $20 just to cover the cost of how fast we can do them. So I don't know if that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd also like to see, Nick, have we ever done an inventory of all the landmark trees in the city?
To the chair, we got asked that, and there's so many, there's thousands, you can really do. I actually tried the first year on an aerial to see, but the fact is, it's not just diameter. Right. You have to evaluate every tree, and there's literally thousands of them. Most of them are off the beaten path, you don't see them. Okay. And now that we've eliminated silver maples and some of the weed trees, there's probably less, but you'd have to get on every single person's property, evaluate each tree. Okay. Which is not practical.
So I also think we should include in this ordinance, as we revise it, something that clearly defines the tree fund. And how are we going to use that money? When are we going to use that money? So that everyone has a clear understanding what the tree fund is. And Nick brings up a good point. It should balance itself out every year.
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
I guess this is Ask Nick the Forester. The one part that, taking a page from Councilmember Peterson's comments, the maximum of 10% of arborvitaes are a good border area. How do we come up with that 10%? That seems, and like your finger holds the wind. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Have you had that written in other tree funds, or tree ordinances that you've seen, or best practices from other communities?
I believe a council person suggested, I think Nancy, maybe you even did. Somebody threw that number out just to be reasonable. Somebody did. And again, now in the winter, an arborvitae does create oxygen, right? It's just not as, the surface area is not the same, right? But there are arborvitaes that turn into trees, but it takes them forever. So the thought was, It's very difficult to plant $8,400 worth of trees on your property, deciduous tree. You couldn't do it. That's
Right, right.
30 trees. So arborvitae's do create a visual, and they are good for habitat. The birds will hide there in the winter, et cetera. So there is some value to them. 10% is arbitrary. I've never seen an ordinance that defined which ones. It was either a 6-foot evergreen or a deciduous 2.5-inch tree. So this would be taking it to the next level, actually saying, picking out arborvitae's. But it just happens our town likes those for screens versus a fence, which is a good thing, and they're natural. So, yeah.
So I would ask administration to look at that percentage. I think it's a bit low.
Okay.
Councilmember Salvia?
All right. So when we get into these discussions, I find myself wanting to step back and say, what problem are we trying to fix here? And what are our goals with this ordinance? And so to me, we're looking to find the balance between property owner rights, not being punitive, and protecting and encouraging our tree canopy. We all love our trees, we all joke about being a Lorax, so I think we need to find that balance in here, and that's why we need to look at this. So in general, I like the recommendations from administration. I do think we need to look at whether permitting or our fees around our current ordinance where we're allowed to take down 3 trees, and those funds should go into our tree fund, which they do. I like the idea of it being spent down every year, because that way, if the money is spent, the trees are growing and the canopy is being replenished. I also think we need to somehow look annually at the status of our canopy. There are lots of online tools now. This is a very hot topic where they're free and you can look at our canopy and demonstrate where are we, where do we have gaps, where do we need to plant. So we need to look at that. And then also, along with the community plantings, I think we need to have some tools that encourage the health of our current trees, so that the trees that we have, where we're spending money to plant them, whether it be homeowners, what tools, what types of feeding can they do to promote the health of their trees. So those were my thoughts on this.
Councilmember Peterson?
Okay, so first, I want to say that only thing we've been addressing has been residential, and we have not been addressing the commercial, okay? And anyone who comes in and builds a house, there's nothing. They get to take down every tree on the property if it's not a landmark tree. So to me, that's where this is not fair at all. We keep going after the actual resident, and not the commercial developer. So I think we need to be figuring out how that's going to play out, because on one property right now that wants to build, it's 166 trees that they would take down. No fee, no charge, no nothing. But we're going to penalize a residential person. Also, 10 days is not realistic in here for the payback of an assessment, because if you close on your house, all those fees that are collected or put on record, that are made of record, then have to go through are all paid through the title company that closes, so then that's all dependent on when they close out the file and mail the checks out. So I wouldn't want someone to further be penalized over a 10-day rule on something like that. Also, if Nick could answer me, how many trees were taken down this week, Nick?
This week?
Yeah, 3. Yep. Large trees, not just small trees, but they didn't need to do anything. It was where they demolished the house. So they don't even have
Today's
to
Monday.
replant anything. Excuse me?
Today's Monday, so today?
No, last week.
Well,
Oh.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's Monday, but yeah, just last week. So that's, we've been continually losing trees. I've been here 30 years. I know where all the trees have been. I have pictures of a lot of them that were cut down. All of those were cut down. All of them were cut down by a builder building a home here, okay? We have not addressed that. Instead, we continually are penalizing the residential homeowner that is just taking care of their property in that regard. So I think that's something that we have to really address the commercial before we put all the rules in place for residential. Because in that case, you would end up receiving enough money to take care and have a maintenance tree fund, to Nancy's point, that we're going to be maintaining our own city trees that are in the right-of-ways, correct? because those are the burden that every homeowner's gonna have to pay if those are not trimmed properly, not done properly, and then end up falling on a house. The homeowner has to pay for that, not the city. And then I guess education is key, all of that. Other communities right now are handing out free trees in lieu of Earth Day and Arbor Day coming, all different kinds, even our state tree, the white pine. I mean, there's, those types of things too that we haven't even touched on of all the different things that are happening. But I think that we need to take a break from the actual residential homeowner and start really looking at what the commercial side is doing to our community.
Mr. Mayor, this might help. That's very good points. And I think when you say commercial, you mean the builders.
Correct.
So just so you know, the way it works is a residential builder comes in and says, I want to take the tree down. The ordinance is written, the way that it's always been handled is anything within 10 feet of the foundation of the tree does not count against your 3, because you can't build the foundation without killing those trees. So they set it up so if all the trees were in the middle, they could clear cut it, and then they can get 3 more on the property. So, to what Councilwoman Peterson's talking about, if there was a fee for every tree, you get 3, or every tree has value on the property. So if they want to take them all down, they have to pay the price to take those down. We do not do that now. The ordinance does not count for that. They get free trees if they're in the middle of the property. And the way we build in Rochester is pretty much lot line to lot line. So, but you add 10 feet on either side, you've basically cleared the whole lot, to your point.
Yeah.
True. So, some people value the trees, and if they're far enough back, they will save them. And that's my job. I measure. If you're 10 feet 1 inches, you're saving the tree. That's on you, because otherwise it's a clear cut all the time. But most of the time they're clear cuts, and that is true. And there is no price to do that for them. So, good point.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Yeah, just quickly wanted to agree with the fact that I think if we're going to do a comprehensive evaluation of tree ordinance, that it should include infill housing as well as current residential housing.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, can I one more? Because I think there's a little correction. So on the commercial properties, the ordinance says you have to save 80%, Planning Commission goes through this, 80% of the tree canopy on the site. So Mr. Randazzo, he had to save 80% of the trees, even though he could still take down 166. But the penalty was he had to pay back that value of those 166 trees back into the fund. So he was planting, like 250 trees back, even though he's taking them down now. They're not the size of the trees, but he doesn't even get credit for box elders. We don't discriminate. If it was a box elder or a cottonwood, that still counted as a tree that he had to replace. So the ordinance is pretty good when it comes to real commercial. I'm talking office. It's pretty hard on them. They have to save 80%, which is significant, or pay into the fund. So.
I want to correct that though. It's actually the number of trees proposed for planting or payment in lieu was 85 required plus 101 replacement, 34% for 15% increase. So, yeah, so it wasn't full 80, but that is a high dense area, okay? My point is, it's all tree canopy, and that's what we have used as the reason behind not allowing trees to be cut down. But we've continually allowed 3 a year to be cut down. That is still part of the tree canopy.
Councilmember Keithley?
I think my question was answered by Nick.
Councilmember Salvia?
Quick question, Anthony, do you know the amount of money we currently have in the tree fund?
68,000.
But
How many trees can we plant with that?
Yeah, we go do the math. Yeah. But remember, some of the people that got fined have 1 year to plant
Right.
on their
Correct.
property. So there's probably 30,000 of that's going to get planted back on their own property, not till this summer. So it's about 38,000 that's left unencumbered where we can plant them where we want. So
We've
we divide
collected
that by-
16,000, correct?
Right.
And of course, Suave owes us a lot of trees.
Yeah, he owes us
Well, that's a whole nother-
$752,000 worth of trees. Yeah.
Any further discussion? So, Mr. City Attorney?
If I just may add one comment. There is a cost to replacement of non-landmark trees. So the ordinance currently provides that the replacement tree rate for landmark and historic trees are 100%. But there is a requirement for replacement of protected trees, which are 7 inches, if I recall, 7 inches in diameter. So that is required to be replaced at 50%. So even the 3 allowed trees, if they're protected trees, they would have to be.
Now, every tree in the city's protected, but the first 3, it's without replacement.
So
Every
anything
year.
on top of that, so
Right, and
anything
that
on
does-
top,
if
so
someone
the
wants to
4th
take-
tree.
You're right. Now, actually, if they want to take 4, 5, or 6 down, I calculate the value at basically 100%, or the formula, which is 100%, and that's what they've been paying. So most people will say, I'll wait. Sad thing is, the next year you could get 3 more, and
And there's
they're
no
free.
fee.
So that's the
Correct.
problem.
So that 50% is hardly ever going to go into effect of collecting on that, because they will just push those to the next year.
Right.
So then there's no cost collected.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Thanks. So will we also be considering whether the tree is healthy or not? Because if it's a dead tree, or we determine it's a dead tree or forester, would there be any fee on it? I just want to make sure we'd consider that.
Yeah, that's a good question. To be fair, so if it's dead or in decline more than 50%, then we don't even count that as a replacement tree. So that doesn't even count against their 3, because they're doing a favor usually, because they're probably diseased, and that'll just stop the spread. So if they're dead or storm damage, then we don't count that against their count.
Council, I have a suggestion too. It's just something that this sounds like it's crying out for a tree subcommittee.
Yes, it is.
Because I think just up here, this is too unwieldy and too time consuming. There's so many different things. So maybe that's something that we should consider, because we need a group to be having meetings and come back and present us with something.
Agree.
So.
I'd be happy to be a part of that.
And
Mayor.
I'll meet with, I'll talk with the city manager and for the next meeting, come up with some format for the,
Should put a resident.
some format for the committee. Councilmember Sage.
Could we consider including a resident and a developer on that committee?
Yeah, well, and again, maybe that's just something that next meeting we'll come back with something for.
Oh, good.
Because I think just hearing this conversation, it's probably going to be difficult to figure this out at council. So, and I think our subcommittees have been pretty effective the last few years. So,
I agree.
Anything further, council? Okay. So, Mr. City Manager, you've got a.
I took copious notes,
Now-
and I understand, and we'll be coming back with a recommendation for a committee, or a subcommittee.
Okay. Next, we have presentation of the city communication strategy by our public relations specialist, Jane, who is, we found out, or we said at the community breakfast, is a millennial. Who can be spreading our information to all ages. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I joined the team last June as the public relations specialist, and I've come up with a communications strategy, which is the first, to my understanding, that the city's had. So as a brief outline, we'll go over our current communications, some strategic goals I came up with, what we envision for print communications, digital communications, and community relations, and then go into the details of the tactics and tools, and then a timeline for the goals. So I think I've been a lifelong resident as well, so speaking from wearing both hats, that the city really values communicating with the residents. And we constantly strive to provide clearer, more accessible forms of communication. There's always room for improvement, obviously. And right now, as I see it, we kind of use a multifaceted model where we rely on print, digital, and in-person communication. There's, someone's always kind of ready to answer their questions if they can. I think that's something we should pride ourselves on. So I went over just a brief overview of what we currently are doing in terms of communications. So we have press releases, a quarterly newsletter, our welcome packet, public notices. We have information on water bills. We do a community survey, state of the city. We have our website, which is dynamic, and some different aspects of the website, the Notify Me, Civic Ready, which is our emergency alert system, social media. We do town hall meetings, homeowner association meetings, and we have lots of community partnerships as well. So just some major themes, digital communications. We currently don't really have a strong presence in video, but I'd like to change that. Print communications, community relations, and I would like that we can continue to be innovative leader in this. So my overall view is I hope for our communication coming out of the city to be a hub for engagement and community spirit. Based on the information that I've met with executive leadership, as well as listening to you, council members, as well as our various boards and commissions, kind of understood what was lacking and what you wanted to see going forward. I hope this becomes kind of a broad-based organization-wide approach, and then working down into more specific goals to help us get it there. So overall, obviously want to better communicate with key audiences, effectively and consistently inform residents about issues, whether those be emergency or more long-term programs, initiatives that they might be interested in, and then just anything that might affect their neighborhood and businesses and what their day-to-day life in the city is. So create a shared community vision for the city, and then supplement efforts to reach audiences outside of the city as well, to bring them in for, just talent, investment, partnerships, business, and enjoying our events. We already have a great DDA that does this, economic development, but I don't see any problem with trying to, further that message as well. So for our digital communication, I want to launch a refresh of our website, which is already built into our contract with our website provider, so that this year we'll be able to roll that out. That would reinforce kind of the website being the main hub of information and continue to engage our residents using that. And then with print, in terms of timing as well, I want to roll out the refresh of the quarterly newsletter, a refresh of the welcome packet, and kind of have an updated overall image and branding for both the website and the print media. And then with community relations, kind of the catch-all bucket, increase and the meetings with homeowners associations, and just broaden our reach into neighborhoods that might not have HOAs as well, and be able to understand what all the various boards and commissions are doing, and we can help spread their message as well. Because I know they're all working on great things, and being able to kind of tap into all these tendrils we have out in the community and being able to bring those and broadcast that is, I think, very important. So some of the digital strategic goals, like I mentioned, refreshing the website. I also want to start using making better use of data to help understand what's driving people to our website, where they're coming from. That would help us kind of come up with a digital advertising campaign as well. So using SEO data, using data that we already have in our website as well. Leveraging the power of social media to listen to our community. I think that kind of captures a voice that we don't necessarily hear, that people don't have time to maybe come to public meetings or reach out directly to us, but they might see something on our Facebook page and be able to comment, and tell us what they're thinking, and it gives us a different perspective as well. We'll be able to kind of broadcast positive coverage. We have a lot of great initiatives that a lot of people just don't know about. We're, currently going through an LED light conversion. One thing that just comes to mind, making the community aware of these great initiatives that we have going on. And then kind of coming up with a standard of procedure for all departments to follow, so we have a unified communication method, so we know that everyone's kind of following the same rules and precedents too. So I think combining and deleting redundant web pages and making our website more intuitive kind of leads into the refresh as well. And then creating short videos of our staff, of council members, boards and commissions, just casual. It gives people, makes you more accessible to our residents. Print strategic goals, as I mentioned, refreshing our quarterly newsletter, hopefully into a more modern format, kind of a magazine style. I think that will allow us to have a more organized, thorough message. and updated welcome packet as well. Cohesive branding refresh as well are, kind of on more of an internal side, but letterhead, business cards, name tags, I'm in the process of as well, just so that we become more identifiable when we are putting things out there. We're working on a DPW logo or seal, and then the possibility of refreshing that where you live tagline. And then as well as kind of a standard of procedure manual that I discussed earlier. So the community relation goals, I want to strengthen our working partnerships with, we have so many great organizations in the community. I don't want to forget everyone, but I couldn't list 3 pages of organizations either. But the DDA, the PSD, obviously, the library, OPC, faith-based organizations, the state, the list could go on and on. These are all great resources. They're all doing great things, and we can just broadcast and strengthen their message and without duplicating effort, but get the message out there even more. I want to further integrate communication between the boards and commissions. No one needs to feel siloed. I kind of want to start meeting and understanding what everyone's doing, at least on a quarterly basis, and be able to talk about what the City Beautiful Commission is doing and what initiatives that our residents might be interested in getting involved with them. So, I think that will create, again, a more unified messaging that will just strengthen our community spirit. So, and then the possibility of creating a community relations committee, kind of in the same theme. Hopefully that would be able to welcome some voices to the table that maybe aren't heard right now. I know that the mayor mentioned at the beginning, millennials, that's kind of maybe a group that we don't currently hear from, that what they might need or want. And being able to kind of branch out and just to get a nice, broad-based community relations committee would be something I'd be interested in starting. Digital kiosk as well in the downtown district is kind of informational, touch-based, interactive kiosk. And then the HOA meetings and then also, non-HOA, although they're less structured, kind of town hall informational meet and greets as well. And then the City Hall, I will hopefully have also one of those interactive digital kiosks as well in the front entryway. Some of our history displayed and being able to engage our residents as they come into the City Hall. So, as I mentioned, the quarterly update meetings with the boards and commissions is one of my tactics, and then providing training to our staff in coordinated communication procedures with that standard of procedure document. And then some tools and resources I'm currently using and continue to utilize going forward. We have a membership with the City County Communications and Marketing Association. I'm a board member of the Michigan Municipal Communications Coalition. I attend trainings for communication best practices. I'm actually going down to Wayne State on Thursday for the PIO and the Right to Know training. So try to, find those resources as well as much as I can. And then we'll be having administrative communications focused intern joining our team as well. So some digital media tactics. I'm going to hopefully design templates that our staff can use as they release messages. And using software like Crello or Canva, it's a really intuitive, user-friendly system for Photoshop. It lets you create really quick designs that create a professional, again, that unified image from the city. And then Hootsuite, start utilizing a social media management so we can launch messages across multiple platforms, schedule messaging, so there's 1 to 2 messages going out a week, and it can kind of get done and not just be a haphazard when someone has time. Develop a digital advertising campaign, so Facebook ads kind of drive more traffic to the city's Facebook. I know we have the DDA Facebook, the police have a great Facebook, the firefighters have a great Facebook. I think that's wonderful, but I think that too, getting to the actual city-wide, kind of more maybe the dry information, but can still be fun, and getting people there as well is going to be an important way for them to engage with us. And then those departmental videos I mentioned before. Some internal communication improvements I also want to tackle. I think this will just strengthen our ability to quickly respond to residents. An employee intranet. So our website provider already has kind of a back end that we can sign into and create kind of an intranet where we'll have documents, that standard procedure document, those design templates, along with other personnel employee documents that people might need, and also a Notify Me system within that, so we can issue messages quickly out to our staff like we do with our residents. And then digital conversion projects, so all those paper files, we'll start working on digitizing those, and we'll be able to have them in a searchable database, and that will cut down on, you know, time and money is spent on FOIA requests as well. So hopefully we'll be able to find the documents faster when not only we need them, but when our residents need them as well. So what I envision as our kind of broken down into stages, how to tackle all of this, the city website refresh being kind of the first and foremost, then implementing Hootsuite, developing the digital advertising campaign, kind of envisioning that, updating the quarterly newsletter format, and then starting the digital conversion project, because I know that's going to take a bit of time as well. So phase 2 would be hopefully installing the digital kiosks, the employee intranet, and then the welcome packet update, and as well as kind of the overall branding with the name tags and letterhead and everything else. And implementing that digital advertising campaign, coming up with that standard of procedure. And then phase 3 is more of that implementation along with the video development and then the departmental graphic development. So this is kind of the basic timeline, you know, the proposal that I came up with, and kind of broke it down into even more details. So if you guys have an idea of when within the next, going into the next budget year for the next 18 months, kind of what we're looking at in terms of communication goals. And I know I won't get into the nitty-gritty on that. So out of that will come a few budget requests. I don't have the exact numbers yet, but they will be coming with scorecards, and we'll be able to present them to council. So just some digital media services. The Hootsuite is a paid subscription. Canva with a paid subscription allows you to have teams, and then some digital advertising obviously is going to cost a little bit of money. Software needs, I think Photoshop's an important one, although it's nice to be able to have those, you know, more user-friendly internet-based ones when we're coming down to welcome packets and quarterly newsletters to have polished graphics. We currently use InDesign, which is great for layout, but to get into that finer detail in terms of the actual photo graphics would be nice to have Photoshop. The software for the digital kiosks and the Laserfiche, which I know you guys are going to be seeing the scorecard for that coming up. And then we'll need to buy the actual digital kiosks, and then hopefully a basic video camera just for those short videos. So, well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Arg. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Robert. Thank you, though.
Millennials take right over. It's
Yeah.
good. I like that. Watch out, Stuart, Mayor. First off, you know, I see PowerPoints in my work all the time, and this is well laid out. You did a great job of this, addressed everything. All the questions that I'd ask are covered in here, and you didn't read every slide, so thank you very much for that. You summarized it well, so that tells me you really know your topic, and I'm glad to have you as part of our administration. I just had two suggestions as you were talking about, you know, working with DDA, PSD, other things. And I know I'm on the sister city committee. I think a couple things came to mind, you know, when we go to the Community Outlook breakfast, you know, Rochester Hills always has this big dog and pony show and everything else like that. I think we can up our game also, but I also think we can learn from our neighboring communities. Rochester Hills obviously
Absolutely.
much bigger than us, but you know, talking to Oakland Township, Auburn Hills, and would really help us become better. They might have some great best practices that would make us better. And then secondly, partnering with the DDA and PSD on some of those downtown kiosks and everything else like that, you know, coming off
Yes.
their budget, which I've overlooked for the last 8 years, you know, maybe having them fund part of the kiosk downtown. I think it ties into like wayfinding signs. It's just a more electronic version of that. You could also have, you know, that on phones and everything else like that. So you know, make it really in your hands. So again, great presentation. Look forward to seeing your budget requests, and it's a daunting task you have in front of you, but well done.
Thank you.
Councilmember Salvia?
Oh, were you first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua is probably doing cartwheels, even though he's not showing it. So something that he has been pounding the table to have a communications person and a communications strategy for the city. So thank you. We're doing cartwheels. We're cheering you on. Thank you.
Thank you.
In addition to that, I'm very excited about more focus on the homeowners and neighborhood association. So if we could just get a calendar, even like put it out there twice a year, and when it's, for me, if it's a meeting's on a calendar, it happens. So I think that would be very helpful. And then also just keep in mind a strategy to update pieces that are out there and any communication that's out there. Build that into your processes as you're building that so that we don't have outdated information out there. So just make sure you build that in. So thank you.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Councilmember Keithley?
Jane, great presentation. You did a nice job with the slides. As a communications professional myself, I'm really excited to see a strategic plan being put into place. I think our city's needed this for a long time, as Councilmember Bavacqua I know has brought up, and many others on multiple occasions. So it's great to see. I like that you have these community partnerships that you're focused on. Some of the things that you mentioned, I know other communities, even within our community, is doing, like the Chamber does, welcome packets. The library, I know, has digital signage throughout. So you have resources right here that you guys can share ideas amongst each other, and I like that you're working that into your communications plan. I love that homeowners associations were a central part to your plan. I know that our city manager and mayor are really out in the communities doing a lot of presentations, but I think you can be that extension for going to homeowners association meetings to give an update. Our city is doing great work, and I think you can share that story with them as you go out into the community even more. And I also think that CMNtv is a wonderful resource for you. They have cameras that you can go and check out if you want to do your own project, or if you want, if you need the software to edit videos, they have all of that at the studio, or if you want to work with them on a project. That's a resource that we have as a city that I think we could utilize more, because CMNtv does such great work and has a fantastic team. So I love that you're really focused on videos, and I think whenever we can pull them in to do that kind of work with you, they have the talents and the resources and equipment to help implement your vision. And I also had a question about the newsletter. When you said a new format, and maybe I missed it, but were you thinking we're going to keep the print format and do digital, or you're just thinking layout?
Yes, so more of a layout issue, because currently our newsletter is posted digitally and then sent out. I don't foresee us getting rid of our mailings. I think that's still a really important way. A lot of our residents don't necessarily regularly access a computer, and it's still an important tool in our toolbox. But in terms of, I know that you're familiar with the libraries, they're more of a magazine style format, and instead of that kind of fold out, and it's a little less intuitive, I would say, and going to something that people are a little more familiar with, and it would allow for there to be more of a thematic kind of order to the content as well. So just more of a layout refresh.
Great. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything further?
Well, I think you've done an incredible job since you've been here anyhow, and I'm looking forward to the changes. I know everyone thinks the website's good, but I know you'll make it even way better, because I can't stand it. So it's not easy to use, and it's hard to find things. So I'm looking forward to new eyes on everything that we have here at the city.
Well, I hope I can achieve that. So
You will. You will.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it. It looks great, and looking forward to the execution.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your work.
Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate that. Councilmember Sage?
Thank you. Jane, wanted to compliment you as well on a very professional presentation. And Jane and I spoke today, so I also support all my colleagues in wanting to engage with the homeowners association. So I found 5 of them today, just in the area where I live. So I would implore you, if you don't make the assumption that they have an accurate list of every homeowners association. So let's give them as much information as we can provide.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, have attempted to start, compiling the most up-to-date in terms of leadership of the HOAs, but if you know and you send it my way, I never will, begrudge duplicate information, because that's a way for me to make sure that it's the most up-to-date. Some of them meet at the firehouse, so I can get information that way. But there's some that are smaller, or maybe my old information that I inherited was so out-to-date that I couldn't find a chain to get to the new leadership. And just touching on that with the scheduled meetings, we kind of started the first meeting last fall in September, and ultimately hope to have a semi-annual kind of spring and fall meeting with the HOAs, where all of the HOAs are invited to kind of come to a breakfast or a meeting on a Saturday or something that's more accessible to them than maybe a weeknight or a weekday. So just a remark on that as well.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, so as local realtor here for years, we have 3 major associations that have over, 25,000 realtors just in our area that, even reaching out to them. Also, there is a website I can give you for all the homeowners associations that we use through title and things like that, so.
That would be great.
And also, as those welcome packets, I know we had an initiative before with the schools, and they would invite everyone in, and I thought even a city one to do that and have the information, and then I can give you the information to be able to add just the 3 associations on, so they can post it out to everyone as well. One of the biggest things we don't have is regarding everything to do with our ordinance and ordinance changes as they take place. So even like that type of communication you're working on, so thank you.
One more quick comment. Thank
Absolutely.
you. So I just wanted to mention too that none of this happens if administration doesn't listen to council and their concerns, and so I appreciate the work that the administration's done in supporting communication as a priority. So thanks.
So thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thank you, Council and Mayor. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next we have it. You have on this subject?
No, sir.
Oh.
Not the previous subject.
I think that's gonna have to wait till after. Is it quick? Is
Do you
it
have any
is it
public
quick?
comment?
Is it?
We had it at the open.
No, after every subject.
This lady here and myself had a comment we wanted to make previously in the last topic. I just wanted to make sure we had time to do that, so we could be heard also.
Okay.
Okay. And you would like that now or later?
Go ahead. You're up here right now. Go
Okay, I just
ahead.
wanted to respect
Yeah.
your time. Obviously, as everyone
Yeah.
had their hands up, I wanted to make sure everyone could speak. So I would like to add into the notes that are being discussed or looked over the overall number for the cost, the fine or the fee that has to be paid into the fund, be either set to a maximum for a resident. I think, as numbers exponentially grow, if you go from 4,000 to 8,000 just because you have a big tree, I don't think that the effect of the size of the tree is relative to the actual coverage that you're getting in the area. The trunk of a tree might be massive, yet the coverage is not nearly as massive as, the fee that you're paying. So I'd like to maybe just think about having a maximum number in there instead of having it be 8 to 10,000. Maybe if it's only 4 or 5 and a little bit more reasonable. In addition to that, you guys had set up in September last year, a amendment to the ordinance, number 12, stating that somebody with hardship, if they came in and asked for a full or partial waiver for that fee, that it would be discussed and considered. And I believe that presenting an argument for that, it's still arbitrary, and I don't believe that everyone's kind of receptive to that at the moment. Like, no one wants to kind of step forward and kind of be a part of that full or partial waiver. If it's not an actual thing, like, I don't know another person who would have a need for full or partial waiver besides myself. That would have been a good example to grant that partial or full waiver. So if there is someone that is, or a good reason for that, then I'd like for, some details in that, in writing, that says, hey, this is why we're granting full or partial waivers. So we can say, so a resident can come up here and say, hey, there's good reason for you guys to waive that $8,000 fee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we can get your name and address for the record, just so that the clerk could actually.
Yes, sir. Michael Jones, 917 Roseland. Thank you.
Ms.
Sir
Douglas.
Douglas, 1228 North Main Street. One of the things that concerns me is that we seem to be so casual about you can remove 3 trees a year as long as they're smaller, and that's going to be the future canopy. It's disappearing then. Somewhere in the future, you're going to have a gap. So that's just one of the things I kind of noticed. And also, some of these lots that are so filled with a house and everything else, they have no room for a tree with a canopy. So those are some things that need to sort of go into the whole big picture. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, next we're on to the Public Works Campus Construction Update. We have our DPW Director. Welcome.
Let's see if we can do this. Let's see. Oh,
I have to accept. Yeah. I was gonna say Microsoft just pushed out last week a security update, so that's why you might have to
gotcha.
accept their
Oh,
new
okay.
policies.
all right. Good evening. Sandy Bronstetter Monroe, the Public Works Director. And I'm here with our monthly update for you on our campus renovation over there. Things are changing by the day right now. I took these pictures last week as I was putting my presentation together, and lo and behold, today they put our windows in. So, every day things are changing over there, and it's just looking more and more like a presence on our site. So it's actually very exciting as all the changes that are happening there. This was the side of the building last week, and today we got the side window over there, and our fence is down, and the posts are due to come down in the next couple of days. Last week, we had our interior concrete floor poured, and when they were all done,
Nice.
this is now the inside of our building. So again, we're really looking like a building now, and it's very exciting to go in there and be able to see all the changes that are coming in there and kind of really see where our offices are and the windows and things like that. It's getting even more exciting. As the campus is continuing the renovations, Rewald and Son has finished our south garage renovation in terms of the platform that was up. We now have our new steel staircase and our railings that are all up on the platform over there. And I have a new door and drywall, so finally I can close the door over there to the construction. But they're also working on a few other things in there. We've identified a few things for the mechanics, as I outlined in my memo, that we may have some ventilation that we're concerned about, so we are starting to evaluate that to make it a little more safer condition. We should have some updates to that as far as what we believe we may or may not be able to do to enhance the safety in this building once we're done with these updates. And I'll have that update at our next one for you. Our truck wash bay over on the north garage now has a wall. They built even more today out, and they anticipate as soon as these masons are done on this portion of the building, they'll be heading over to our administration building to start that brick work. They've already put the underlayment on the outside of the building, so we may even have our facade going up very soon. Thankfully, our fuel canopy station project is moving forward finally. They have come and started putting the post in, and they're going to start, I believe, on Wednesday with pouring the footings for the canopy. Our contractor did let us know that our custom ordered fuel tank has now been delivered to their site. So that's even more, because that was a several month delay on waiting for that. So it is there and waiting. So hopefully we can move forward, and I would expect to see this done before the end of April. So although this did incur some delays due to the extended water that we found underground, we believe now we should have this portion of our project completed by the end of next month. So in going forward, our regular update, we are still within our budget. In looking at our contingencies, we have incurred an extra $160,000 of expenses. However, we have identified approximately $40,000 in cost savings for a net balance use of $120,000, or a balance of 120 of the 200 that was approved for this project. As you'll recall, we did have to do the concrete foundation removals, some electric upgrades, facade changes, our sanitary sewer had to be relocated. We've received our final tickets in for the soil hauling. It was actually almost $3,400 less, so I was able to take that off of our ticket here and get that down a little bit. I believe it looks like our gate relocation price is going to come in significantly less as well, thankfully, so we just don't have the final cost, and I didn't want to update that just yet. We talked about last time, we are deleting our salt barn door to save that $30,000, and this month, we've actually managed to save another $10,000 in locker savings. We are going to have the exact same steel lockers that were proposed before, but we were a little concerned about the cost going into this as they were pretty expensive. Rewald & Sons, their project manager, found another manufacturer, and through negotiations, it was the original manufacturer who dropped their price so they could keep our business. So we saved 10, but we get the same lockers. So again, we're up to 40,000 on those savings, and we are continually, whether it's us or Rewald, we are talking with them and communicating in our biweekly meetings and throwing around some ideas of where we think we maybe could save some costs or some different ideas that we could have going forward. So these are the lockers that they're used all over the country by police. They're steel, and we think they might withstand the DPW guys in their boots. We're hoping. So, yeah, that's been quite an ordeal. So again, just back to our regular budget, and so we thank you again for giving the DPW your attention this year and focusing on our building. Everyone's very excited to get in there. We believe that we're still on schedule with occupancy by August. And even Jason has tried out his new desk over there, his new office, and is getting ready to get to work in there as much as he can.
I'm not sure how we got authorized for a new desk yet,
Yes.
but
That, Jason would probably be happy with that desk.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're right.
Kind of, it's out of the garage. So again, thank you again, and that's all we have for the DPW building.
Thank you.
maybe don't go too far.
Yeah. Next is award of firm to study and recommend water and sewer rates.
All right. So in December of 2019, we released requested proposals looking for expertise from companies in water and wastewater utility engineering and financial services. It's recommended that rate studies would be done every 5 years. Rochester did our last one in 2014. It was done as part of the SAW grant that we went after for our sewer system. So it's time that we look at those rates. We know that we have some other extended costs coming up, and last year we only did our pass-through costs for the ones that we were incurring from Shelby. So we received 5 proposals, and after analyzing those with administration, we elected to interview 4 of those firms. During our interviews, we actually, we had city administration, public works staff, and we also had representatives from each of our 3 engineering firms to interview those candidates, get presentations from them, get more information from them. 2 of the firms that we interviewed stood out, one of them being Raftellus, and their proposal was for $44,693, and the other proposal was Municipal Analytics, and they were $20,500. So in looking at that, there is quite a delta there, and as we continue to explore the options and what the differences were, we asked for additional information, explanation of their fees, and then their best and final pricing. Municipal Analytics explained that there would be another $3,500 fee for them to do the connection fee, which is studying that is when new users are coming online to our systems, we're looking to make sure that the costs are equitable, that they are paying their fair share for the existing infrastructure as well as any new infrastructure that would be required to serve them. So that would bring municipal up to $24,000. Raftellus, in further discussions with them, gave us a 20% discount. So their price actually dropped down to $35,750. So we're still at an $11,000 delta between our 2 firms, and as we're continuing to dig into the details and discuss this with our infrastructure committee, we looked at the details of what each one would give us, what kind of product we would get, the depth of the people that would be assigned to us, and what kind of value services we are going to receive from each of them. And Raftellus continued on, that was our recommendation from administration and DPW, was that we really take a look at Raftellus, what it was that they were offering us, and trying to get that apples to apples comparison between the 2 companies. Municipal Analytics was proposing a standard rate study. They were going to look at what we were charging our customers and what we were getting. They weren't going to look at the connection fees for the new users. Raftellus was also offering to study our largest customers, how they're affecting our rates, how they're affecting the revenue that's being generated, as well as what's going to happen to us if either one of those or any of the top three, were to go. What would that do to our systems and our rates, and how are we going to properly account for those things? We really felt that was worth a lot of value for us to give consideration to that. In continuing, we went to look at our project team. Raftellus is a national company with over 100 experts on site for rate study components. Municipal Analytics is a local company out of Ann Arbor. It is a single-owned, sole proprietor company. They were proposing to bring on an accountant to assist with the study. But after looking at that, we decided we should perhaps give some consideration to mitigating that sole proprietor risk. If something were to happen in the middle of our study and that owner was unable to continue on with our study, where would we be left? We would have no data. We wouldn't have any of the information, even to the point that when we get to our rate model and we start looking at that and we start trying to learn that rate model, if we don't have that one person, we can't go anywhere. We can't learn anything else. So we were proposing and working with the administration was possibly hiring one of our engineers. What would it take for our engineer to also learn this rate model, to be a part of this study and to utilize their expertise and what they do know about rate studies so that they would be a part of this, and they would also be able to come to our public education seminars, to our council meetings, to administration meetings, and really help us with some of that information as well. And Fishbeck offered their cost to assist with all of that would be approximately 70 hours worth of their time, which would add an additional $10,000 in cost to have them do that. So to compensate for what Municipal Analytics would be able to give us, but for us to have that sole proprietor risk mitigated a little bit more, we're now looking at an additional up to 10,000. All in all, they were at like 13, and we kind of went back and forth on the actual number of hours and how could we use them less, what would we really need from them, and it boils down to about $10,000 just in their time alone to have that. Other features of Raftellus was the defensible rates. It's worthy of noting that their chairman has testified in several hearings here in Michigan regarding water and sewer rates as well as lawsuits. And our main staff member, that would be our project manager on this, he actually wrote the chapter for Eagle's rate study. One of the main chapters that he wrote it on how to design rate studies. So we're getting an expert that's dealing and helping us do this. Raftellus is also working currently with the Genesee County Drain Commissioner's Office doing their rate studies. And when I asked for a reference from their project manager over there, their finance director actually stated that we have learned several things from working with Raftellus regarding rate studies, even though we'd had years of experience in this area ourselves. Noteworthy, Genesee County has 2 sewer systems with 2 different rate models. So we now also have a team that would be coming on board who's already doing this, although we have a water, there's sewer. Municipal Analytics did not say that they had any experience in doing the 2 rate models and trying to determine how to best allocate the cost across those systems. So in looking at a lot of these different things, the administration as well as the infrastructure committee was recommending that we move forward with the Raftellus rate study and award that contract to them in the amount of $35,750.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Oh, no questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Salvia.
Thank you. So from the infrastructure committee standpoint, we did have a good discussion on this, and Sandy, you presented this very well. Thank you. You've covered a lot of the details. From my perspective in our discussion, it's very important that we have, this true cost of service model and that it's transparent. Just like we had the presentation around communication and talking to residents, it's, residents don't understand what's in their water bill, what is the cost of service for water and sewer. So I think it's very important that we do this study, as well as we have defensible rates. And so I'm happy to make a motion to award this to Raftellus for the amount of $35,750.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Salvia, support by Councilmember Keithley. Discussion on the motion, Councilmember Albrecht.
I'm on the infrastructure committee also with Councilmember Salvia, and we talked about this in 3 meetings, and I want to commend Sandy because initially they weren't close, and she went back for one more bite at the apple and got the 20% discount, which brought them close together. And then secondly, I'd like to thank administration, Blaine's leadership in terms of level setting this, as Councilmember Salvia said, the pros and cons, laying this out. We're very prudent with taxpayer money, and while this one is the difference when you add back in the $10,000 to train our own staff, we are getting a firm that has bandwidth to handle this, has had experience in this, and I fully support this the motion.
Councilmember Peterson.
Okay, thank you very much for all of this. I have a couple concerns, okay? So I appreciate all the work that was done on infrastructure, but having to work with a lot of these other entities and cities, like especially the city of Detroit, and having Gliwa, Eagle, all of this, we have everybody who's a part of the water sewer system working on this, right? There's no really outside party. I totally get the cost, I totally get the experience and everything else, but we don't have anyone who doesn't have their hand in some of the most crucial water systems around. And the city of Detroit has one of the worst water systems right now with the accountability and the factors laying into that. We just discussing this today with one of the senators, and it's just, I don't want to have all our eggs in one basket of not having that option of having an outsider really look at our needs, just because they're tied to Gliwa, Eagle, and all of those things. So that's my thought on that. I appreciate everything everyone's done on this, though, and I can see why everyone would want this. But my hesitation is, are we really going to get somebody to look at our real unique needs here? Whether they've worked with the two system or not, it's just, I know some of these other municipalities, it's not most reliable for systems that they currently have right now and pricing structures. So, and with so many things being waived from some of those municipalities that, their bills are being waived and everyone else is picking them up type of thing, I don't know. I'm really hesitant on choosing them, but I appreciate everyone's hard work on that too. Show the differences between them, but these are my total concerns.
Councilmember Salvia.
Sandy, so Reftella is a national firm, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so do they represent outside of Michigan? They've worked with cities outside of Michigan?
All over the United States.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
No, I cannot support this.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is award of property and liability insurance. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In council's packet, starting on page 110, is my memo, and I'll just highlight a little bit of the process that the city annually goes through to review. And then every so many years, again now that is codified, that we actually do a formal request for proposal process. So over the past few years, we've gotten renewal from our current provider, which is the MML. And this year we did a full request for proposal, and this is for our property and liability insurance. From our process, we received 4 proposals, and one firm actually did respond declining. So technically we received 5 responses. Of the 4, 2 of those are pools, and 2 of them are actually brokerage firms that do specific work in the municipal area. Narrowing down, there are various levels and limits and deductibles, and so I kind of, through my memo, started to outline, and I'll just use one example out of the 11 categories that we have insurance for. So probably the easiest one is our automobile coverage. So looking at automobile coverage from those 3 firms, that we narrowed it down to, and one was the reason why I guess maybe take a step back. We did eliminate one of the firms as the cost was close to $100,000 more than the others. So we narrowed it down to the three, which remained our current provider, our previous provider, and then another one that focuses on the municipality. The one that was excluded was the other pool that again was approximately $100,000 more. Looking at the automobile coverage, just the premium cost, there was a range from $35,066 up to $52,553. The reason why this one's a little bit easier to kind of look at is our deductibles were ranging from $0, the other one was $250, and the other one was $1,000. So not a very large range in deductibles for automobile insurance. However, a very large range in the actual cost difference. Continuing on, sorry, to the other page. Then looked at trying to categorize each of the other remaining 10 options and concluded that the levels of coverage were very ranged. So in one topic it might be 100,000 where the current municipal pool might be 10 million. So when we're starting to kind of get into the actual kind of trying to do apples, and really it was more apples, oranges, bananas, it was a full fruit salad, that is a bit challenging. However, looking at the overall portfolio of the 11 categories, I've landed again back on our current provider, which is the MML, and specifically, and I then outlined several reasons, and those are the pool that we're in is specific to municipalities. We don't have a risk manager. That position, let's say when I worked for the city of Battle Creek, is a $100,000 position. It's managing these various, so for us, up to 11 different insurance firms. We get through a pool a specific staff member and their team actually assigned to us. So either of the two pools actually would have been to a benefit. But again, with MML, there is that benefit. Next, compared to last year's cost, was $174.56. The renewal cost before any dividends for remaining with the pool are subtracted was or is 3.12% increase to $175,781. As the overall pool has done well, there actually would be a reduction, and that would actually see a decrease in our overall renewal of 3.74%, which is another reason. The final one that I've outlined is the MMM pool actually has some added value for items such as bonds. So our finance director and then the police, which with the other entities we would actually have to pay for, I put a value of around $5,000 annually. As well as their specific trainings, and again, working with an organization that's dedicated to municipalities. So I did add, which is a new category, I guess, in my memo, some additional insight that I gleaned actually from reviewing all of these proposals, and that is, really looking at some of our items. I think we can improve our programs, some of our policies, looking at different departments. When I was answering questions through this RFP process, there was various questionnaires from travelers and other insurance companies that I believe if we actually focus going forward, over the next few years, we can actually even see a further reduction. So it was very helpful, other than having this mandatory component now that we've added in to our purchasing policy to do a 5-year review and then do a request for proposal. I actually might be encouraging, after we have a few more of these improved policies and programs in place, that we actually go out sooner than the 5 years to actually hopefully see some additional savings. In the end, with the dividend reduction of the $11,697, that would bring the MML cost down to $164.84, and that is what I'm recommending. And then further seeking council's authority to make any final adjustments that might be in the best interest of the city. After talking with MML, there might be a few adjustments and whatnot. Again, behind my memo is a summary, which does outline the proposed amounts from the 4 providers, as well as a few pages highlighting the benefits of pooling with the municipal pool, as well as just overall highlights and coverage. And I do see in the audience our representative from the MML is here as well to answer some questions that might be a little bit more detailed.
Councilmember Albrecht.
When I first got this in our package, I called Blaine because the first thing, there's $14,000 more for MML, which is our taxpayers' money. I wanted to better understand this. You can come on up because you might answer some of these questions. And I also looked at his summary of proposals, and I was wondering, okay, you're correct. The auto insurance was $17K lower than option 3, but conversely, umbrella insurance was $17K up. General liability was $6,000 up. Public officials was $27,000 up. So, it was a red flag where I'm going, what's going on here? What in our discussion we talked about the I might not use the right insurance terms, but
The limits?
The limits of liabilities, the 10 million. If we had another lawsuit against the city, instead of the 10,000 we had under the previous policy, and again, if I'm mistaken,
it was 100,000.
100,000, excuse me, where we had to pay the other, large amount, we would have had coverage under here. I think of this as when we do our auto insurance. I can get a cheaper auto insurance, but I might have a deductible of $2,000. Instead of a $500 one. So I would like you, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Judy Thompson-Terosian.
Okay. Hi, Judy. I would like you to talk about, I will support this based on all the information that Blaine presented and what I wrote on before, but help me understand, though, some of those. When I looked at the public officials one, $30,000 versus, the next, your competitor at $3,000. I was going, it's not even close. So if you can help me just understand that in the proposal, and if what I said makes sense in terms of the liability coverage is much greater, or where you would take on some of that cost if that happened, if you can help educate me on that.
Blaine summarized it very well. He also summarized the differences very well by saying it was apples, oranges, and bananas. The nice thing about the MML program is that we only work with public entity members. So everything we do looks at how to best protect our members across the board. So under public officials, we also include the police liability. We also include the employment practice liability, which is $10 million per occurrence with no aggregate limit. And then we also pay legal expenses in addition to that $10 million limit. So the $10 million, the liability limit is strictly for the damages from an award. So the other thing on the auto, we include at agreed amount limits a lot of vehicles, the police vehicles that are 5 years or newer, the fire vehicles. We also include large DPW vehicles. So those, instead of being on an actual cash value, which is at a depreciated value, we include those at a agreed amount value. So the city tells us the limit that you want to select, which we've included in our proposal. And then if a big ticket vehicle gets destroyed and it has to be replaced, you have up to that dollar limit, maybe $100,000, $200,000 to replace it, as opposed to getting, if it's a 10-year-old vehicle, a DPW vehicle, you might get $20,000, and we would give you the 100 or the 200, whatever that value is of the vehicle. So there are things in our proposal that can't be quantified because it's so broad. We provide very broad coverage.
So I don't know. That's why the $14,000 additional cost in my mind, is worth it for this additional coverage. And that was the questions I needed answered from City Manager Blaine and Judy. Thank you for adding some color to that. I appreciate it. So
Thank
again,
you.
as I said, I would, when it comes time for a motion, I would make a motion to approve this. But I
So
know there's
why
other
don't we,
comments.
a motion to approve by Councilmember Albrecht,
Support.
support by Councilmember Peterson. Discussion, Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, so, question, I just want to know, inland marine and equipment, I mean, it's included, what do we own that's inland marine and equipment, okay? I don't know. Is that just the boat for the pond? Okay, I just really wanted to know what we had that I didn't know we had.
It's up at Nick's place.
Oh, please.
I have my own,
came out.
my own boat. I can actually, when we go through our
We have our
when we go through our vehicle and equipment renewal process through the budget,
Yeah.
I'll actually be able to highlight and I'll asterisk off the items that are particular to the inland marina component. But it's well over 90 items that are through our vehicle and equipment that are actually on this overall schedule. So there's pieces of equipment in Public Works that are costly, over $15,000, that we are tracking and actually insuring.
But we only have the one thing for marine, correct? Do we have,
I will go back through. So again, I think there's maybe some components, and Anthony, you might be able to help me. I'm trying to think if there's this Zodiac and some equipment with the fire.
That's what I was
so
There is
some
okay.
equipment with the fire department
Okay.
as well for
for
the water.
rescue and things,
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to make sure it's not like just boats and things.
Yeah, no, and that's where across.
We patrol the river.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted, okay, all right, thank you. No, I'm happy, thank you.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes,
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. And your person waiting outside is, he can go home now, right?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next is a consideration of the LED lighting conversion for remaining city assets. Mr. City Manager, Mr.
Yeah, actually, this
Treasurer.
project, I was going to say, Anthony is actually overseeing our LED project. As it, in addition to lights, actually does have an impact on our financial well-being. So both environmental and financial.
mental.
I think when the computer did its security update restart earlier, it got rid of my page I had open here. I just want to pull it up so everyone can see. Ta-da. All right, so council, as this is loading, do a quick update on where we're at. The conversion project for phase 1 has been completed.
Yay.
That counted the tennis courts, the city hall building, so that's downstairs, the lights here, police department upstairs, as well as the perimeter lighting attached to the building. That was just completed. There's like 3 more lights left to do, but essentially it was completed about a week and a half ago. So March, the month we're in just right now, will be the first month that we will be able to see what the costs are with everything being installed with LED lights, what the effect will actually be on it. So what I have before you tonight, there's 3 things I want to talk about real quick, and that is the, getting so close now. Boy, there are a lot of agenda items on here. Wow. It's like, you know, you're really old scrolling for your age when you have to hit the drop downs.
Yes, that's the worst.
You know, oh yeah, you just keep going. I'm in that now. I had to keep scrolling for like a while.
Say, Anthony, don't you hit in the millennial category still? So.
In the beginning, the senior millennial. All right, so phase 2 for the project is approximately $5,000 a year. That'll be in savings. This is going to cover the rest of the city-owned buildings. This will be fire, DPW, the parks buildings, as well as some city-owned pathway lightings and the lightings around City Hall here for the streets. That will complete all the buildings and what we pay DTE for. There's a couple components still pending. One of them is the homeowner associations, which we pay part of the electricity costs, that have asked the city, hey, we want to jump into the ERC program as well. So there will be a agreement that will be coming from Attorney Crott at the next meeting, if we're still on track for that, to get a generic agreement in place so that the homeowner associations can also sign on board and jump into the program as well, which will save the city money as we pay half of the electricity costs for them. Then the last component in the packet and the big ticket item, other than the $5,000 a year, which is still very important, is the street lighting for DTE-owned lights. So DTE owns the lights, we get the bill for it, and on that one in the sheet here, that one's a big savings if we can start moving forward on that one at approximately $20,000 a year on the reduction on the cost. Now, what we're looking for tonight is approval to let the city manager, we can wait if we want to see how March goes for the billings when those come in, but to allow the manager to move forward with the lighting for phase 2 to complete the rest of the city-owned buildings, and then also to start we added a new phase 3, DTE-owned street lighting. That one, Jim, if I say anything wrong, please feel free to jump up here. Jim's with ERC, as you remember from a couple meetings ago here, that was heading the rep from the program. We have to get council support to give to DTE to say, hey, we want to do this. At that point, DTE will then get on their schedule at some point in time and the next down the list to actually come out and survey all the street lightings. So DTE has a list to say how many fixtures we have, so we know what the fixtures are, and so we know what the conversion rates for savings will be. However, the locations of them, they won't do until we actually give them the, okay, we're interested in doing it. It doesn't lock us into anything at that point, but then they go, oh, you're serious? Okay, we'll go out, give you GPS locations of every single light, match it up to say, this is yours, here's what it is, and then we'll have a nice map for those lights. Then at that point, the city can then say, okay, we're ready to move forward. Hey, we'd like to enter into the agreement, in which case you then, ERC would then write the check to DTE. We would then be as in the program officially, and 6 to 9 months-ish later, we will actually be on the schedule for DTE's crews to come out and do the lighting replacement. They are very busy doing these kind of replacements in their entire, I am going crazy with this thing. It's usually like up here. I'm gonna move that. DT is usually very busy doing these replacements all across their jurisdiction, so you just kind of have to get into the queue, essentially. So that's kind of the time frame on that one. When everything is said and done, with the numbers as presented, we're looking at roughly starting about $30,000 a year in savings to the city, and then that increases each year as the capital component is essentially paid off back to ERC. So the kind of the ask tonight is, what's council questions? Jim's here; he can help answer any other details to it, but looking to move forward.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve Phase 2 with ERC, converting the remaining city-owned assets to LED, as well as requesting ERC to work with DTE on requesting the DTE-owned streetlights to be converted.
Support. Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Peterson.
Yep, I just want to say this has been one of the most forward-thinking initiatives we've done as a city. I think it's been great. Everything looks even fresher and newer with new lights on it. So I'm really looking forward to the saving all the extra money with all the other buildings and the outside lighting. But they haven't come and changed anything out yet? Out on the streets?
So DDA is doing doing their lights.
No, I mean
to
just
LED.
in the neighborhoods.
No, not in the
No.
neighborhoods yet.
I saw one change, and I sent the picture to Blaine.
It's the one I forwarded to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of those, as they're doing, they may be, when they're replacing it, doing them themselves when they replace them, because they're
Okay.
not replacing
Oh,
with the
okay.
old.
All right, that one just totally changed. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, Jim, yeah.
TT bill.
Yeah,
They
yeah, come
said
on.
that there were 3
Need to
lights
come up
that
to
they-
the-
Yeah, come on up, because we got to
TT
catch on
says
the
that
sound.
they converted 3 lights.
Okay, I saw it then,
Oh, there we
because
go.
I walked the same thing, and it's like,
That's
that's
one of the
different.
3.
Okay, all right,
And
okay.
that's one of the things, when you get the GPS mapping of it, they'll tell you, show you what lights they converted and where all your lights are. And it's also will be good for the city to make sure that what they say is out there and what they're billing you are actually the same thing. Sure.
Okay, well, that's awesome. I do want to make a note, though, that one is not as bright, which I'm not going to complain about, because it used to shine into the upstairs windows of the people that live there on the corner, that you could tell that it did that. So it doesn't do that, it's really more over the street now, so you can actually see the street and sidewalk very well. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you, Council.
That's a pretty easy vote.
Yes.
Next is a report from the various boards and commissions. First is a report from the Historical Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Much of the meeting was focused on the fiscal year budget and the items contained therein. Most everything was a carryover, with the exception of a one-time request that'll come before us at the March 21st meeting. It involves an archival project with the items that are located here in City Hall that the Historical Commission has collected. And I want to thank administration for the negotiation they did with Rochester Hills Museum. And Nick, or Blade, if you want to mention anything regarding that process, I think it's something I think we'll look at in our budget review of goals and objectives, and I think there will be support for it.
City Manager?
Yeah, if I could just add. So right now, I have met with the staff from Rochester Hills, including specifically the museum, so Ken and then Pat McKay. They actually brought over Samantha, who's their archivist, over at the museum, and they spent about 2 hours actually going through, and I'm expecting the actual final proposal, which will be, as was just noted, shared with all of council as a budget request. They did kind of give me we're going to guess before they went in there, around $10,000 for them to go through and review everything. There's, again, specific gloves for different pieces of either material or for newspaper and some of those sort of things. They would be then, other than just looking at them, they would be actually adding that into a database. It would be using the same software that we actually have purchased but never actually installed. And it's the same database that they actually use. Right now, in the coding, there would probably be a portion that would be just registered as an R. And then for their items, they now will be adding in to call it RH. So who is the ownership and that sort of stuff. So this actually isn't the, what I would probably say is maybe a phase 2 if we choose to go down that route. Right now, this would just be getting an inventory, actually getting it into the database, not yet getting to the next step, which would be potentially either loaning or donating or moving towards a larger portion, other just having items stored either in our storage room right now or over at one of the parking decks in the storage area. So, and I do have some more of the critical items that actually in my manager's office, as the Historical Commission was very adamant that certain items not ever leave the city. So, not that I'm taking it, City Hall can't leave here, but city's ownership, that would be included in the overall inventory of what we actually have.
Just one other update, just happy to report, we have sold to date 124 of the Detroit United Railway books.
All right.
And if I could just,
Councilmember Peterson.
I would like to say thank you. I know after sitting on Historical for quite a few years, that had been one of the requests and one of the biggest complaints they had, that was not taken care of. So thank you for finally finishing that.
Very good. Next is a report from the Planning Commission. Mayor Pro Tem Bevacqua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So one of the things we did was we had to elect a new vice chair, and although he was very reluctant, we put Commissioner Lord in that position, the voluntold. He was nice enough to do it, so he'll be our vice chair moving forward. We looked at the lighting ordinance again. We're still kicking that around. It's going to be coming back in front of us one more time at the next meeting, and we'll see if we can get that nailed down. Pink Creek Tavern came in front of us. They wanted to put in a canvas decompression chamber airlock, on the front, so that you don't walk directly into the building from the outside. So they needed to get some approval from MDOT on that, and they're looking to move forward with that, and we approved it. So the next thing was Maven Fitness over on South Street. Their CrossFit facility that's been operating back there for a while. Their site needed to be improved in order to be up to standard, and so they came in front of us with a site plan for putting in a parking lot and parking, and they'll be moving forward with that as well. We also got a presentation from Siona regarding an update to the planning webpage, and that includes an opportunity for the residents to really dig into what plans or projects are being developed by looking at a map of the city and seeing current projects in front of Planning Commission or anywhere along the process. So it's a nice little interactive tool, and I think it's a great addition to the website. I think finally, we had on the agenda, Hellroll Corporation was looking to have a dog training facility brought in as a tenant on their property, and that tenant backed out, so that project won't be moving forward. And then finally, we looked at the Randazzo project, the Riverfront Place on Walnut and First. And that's a special project that's been in front of us, as you know, probably by now for 3 years or so. And based on the feedback they were getting from the Planning Commission, it didn't look as if it was going to pass, so they requested that it be tabled based on feedback that they got from the Planning Commission concerns and changes that were being requested. So, but that being the case, brings me to a point where I'd like to actually request from administration a couple of things, and hopefully with the support of council, and maybe we can look for a bit of a head nod here. But first of all, I'm wondering if we can request from administration a moratorium, excuse me, on any future special projects. Those that aren't currently haven't currently been presented to haven't currently been presented to Planning Commission. And I think with the issues that we're having with a couple of these special projects coming in front of Planning Commission, and not necessarily getting the results that the developers are looking for, I think we might need to just take a look at the whole process. I think that there's some concern that maybe special project designation has outlived its usefulness, that it may have been something that was useful in the past, and it may not be so useful moving forward. And so that being the case, I'd also like to request that administration put on the agenda for our joint meeting that we have scheduled, or tentatively scheduled, between Planning Commission and City Council, the opportunity to reassess PICA boundaries, special project designation in our future land use map within our zoning, and determine whether it's necessary moving forward or whether we should just remove it as part of the master planning reevaluation.
So the request is to have special project as an agenda item at the joint meeting. That's in May now, I think.
And a moratorium be presented in regards to future special projects being presented
At that meeting or at a city council?
at a
meeting?
city council meeting.
Okay, so, I think if there's head nod, we can at least talk about that at a future meeting when the city administration brings that forward as soon as possible.
Yeah, as long as I guess there's the head nod, I'm happy to work with the attorney if that's council's direction.
Councilmember Peterson, you had a comment?
Yes, I do. Well, I guess I would like clarification as why, I know special projects was brought before us because if the land use is not what it is, so we can bring in a different project, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so why would we put a moratorium on that? Because we have 3 major outstanding projects right now that have been, I'll just say, been run through the mill of trying to have them be able to finish their, bringing the plans to us with all the demands that have been made.
Well, we said if it's in the pipeline, then it would not.
No, I understand that, but even future, because if they decide to sell the land and have someone else to come in, I mean, we're going to miss some really great opportunities to do that. And I just, it's fine, the administration can bring back some information, but I think right now, we're crossing a very fine line by impeding people from coming in and bringing good development to help our tax base. Man, I don't know, might have to cross the border one day because you guys are gonna be missing out on some great development. It's happening everywhere else and we keep pushing it away.
Okay, so I think we'll bring that forward.
Happy to bring that back for council's consideration and
then put
discussion.
that on the agenda for the joint meeting as well.
And that, just for everybody's, I put in the manager's report to confirm, so that's one of my items actually underneath. That's the May 21st date, so it would be at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Very good. Anything further, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
No, sir, thank you.
I would just like to add the Paint Creek Yacht Club ownership said that they should be opening on April 1st. They said they are on
May 1st.
May 1st.
April 30th.
April 30th, but they are on target, they say. Okay, next, receive a report from the zoning boards of appeal. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, sir. We had one item, Wesley Street. There's some grading problems in the rear off of 3rd Street, and the gentleman has a garage that he has a big cement pad to the north, and it's lower than the alley, so it's always collecting water for his property and Mr. Smith's property, Alan Smith's property. So they came in and said they're willing to take down the old garage, raise it up a foot, actually make the garage smaller, and then turn it to come in off the alley, which will correct all the problems. They will then take out all the concrete that's in the back, turn that into green space, and then put a French drain in it, which will help drain all the water off of his property and Mr. Smith. So it was a win-win, but we had to go because technically they were removing the non-conforming building. They wanted to put it right back where it's at, but just a little bit smaller. So ZBA felt that was a good hardship, and they approved that request.
Very good.
Anything to improve property, I guess, if you're somebody special.
Next is receive a report from Raya.
Okay.
Ms. Councilmember Keithley.
Yes. So the Rochester Area Youth Assistance Board met the last Tuesday in February. Board Chairman Debbie Jones said that she is going to plan to attend the Neighborhood House meeting on April 16th because she wants to get a better feel for ways that they can collaborate and support each other. So I thought that was a great idea. There was discussion surrounding the addition of a youth board member to represent the groups that we serve on this board. So they're considering extending one of those seats to one of our youths in the community. Raya has also been offering a series of lectures with our public library that deal with things that our kids are facing right now. Our last one was on anxiety. The next one we have is going to be March 19th, and that's on drug and alcohol abuse. These programs have been really successful and have maxed attendance for almost everyone so far. So we've been pleased to see that people are responding to these services. And then you guys know that the youth recognition banquet is coming up. Some of you may have received an invitation for that. So I will mention that there was some discussion around attending that event because there were so many nominations this year, which is a great thing because we have a lot of, exceptional youth to recognize. But the problem ended up being that we have so many people to recognize that we considered limiting it to one parent per child. So it's kind of like pick your parent, which we really didn't want to do. So in future years, if you don't get an invitation to this event, it's because we gave parents priority. So I just wanted to give you the heads up. They discussed it this year, but obviously many of you got an invitation. So it's a very successful event, and I'm glad to see that, but I just wanted to let you know that that was a topic of discussion.
Very good. A little Sophie's Choice there, something like that. Before we get to new business referral, there's one thing that we should have added. I would need tonight. I'm going to make a nomination to the DDA board of Christian Hauser. Remember, Brian went from DDA to PSD, so there's still an opening. There were not any new people. I talked to Christian. He's on the Brownfield Development Board. Seems like a very good person. So I'm going to nominate him tonight. I did let him know that he would not be officially confirmed to the next meeting, but he certainly can attend the next DDA meeting as a non-voting member. Okay, next we have new business for miscellaneous. Mr. City Manager.
All right, I have a few things. So the first one is at the beginning of, or the first meeting of every month, we actually go through the City Council request list. There's about 5 items that are there. I'll provide a quick update on a couple of them. Attorney Crott and I have spoken now with both AT&T and Verizon on the 5G, and we'll be following up. We were actually supposed to get from their attorneys some language in regards to their concern, and then eventually bringing this forward to City Council. And this was in regards to the amendment to our small cell ordinance. So I hope it could be as soon as our next meeting, to bring this before council. So that's one of the, verbal updates, as I was hoping to still get some information from both of those providers, but we haven't yet. Initially, we looked at early March for reviewing the RFP. I just signed off on the actual RFP that will hopefully go out either at the end of this week or early next. So it won't be early March for the actual RFP results. However, we will be issuing that shortly. We are adding 2 addendums, or 2 additions, I should say, to the request for proposal for the OPEB, and that is in regards to the cemetery funds, the perpetual funds, as well as potentially an alternative is our pension funds. So more information on that shortly. Weather has been great, so Sandy and I haven't had a chance to talk about the leaf pickup yet. So we won't. I don't think. So I'll have to get back to council on that particular item. I'll get to that in a moment. So those were the action items. And
Mike?
again, yep.
City
sure.
Manager,
Oh, yeah.
on the last item that was
Sure.
requested by former Mayor Ray,
Yeah.
Do we have a date for the next parking committee?
I know Nick
Meeting.
has actually been working with, I think, the members. I don't know if you
Yep,
have
so
an
we're
update.
that close. We set the agenda today. Anthony came up with a bunch of stuff, so it's going to be a 2-3 hour meeting, literally. We have lots of stuff, so it's probably, we're trying to get by the end of this month or the first week of April at the latest. So Jane will send around the confirmation so we can get it going here. So we got the agenda set today.
Other than that, if there are other open items, happy to work with the clerk's office to continue to update this form. So that was that list. Next, we have, just for acceptance, the February 26th and the March 3rd check register reports. If you'll allow me to jump, and then maybe you can come back to public comment in a moment, I can jump down to the manager's update, and then I do have one for general miscellaneous, if that's all right. Okay. So for my updates in the back of the packet, again, our Public Works is already thinking spring as our weather's been nice. Opening the various bathrooms and preparing our natural areas for flowers for the spring growth. So as we have more details, I'll throw some photos and we'll have some of that stuff updated. I'll just make a plug for Founders Day, although I think somebody else will actually put in the details, but that is upcoming. Next, I have been, and I know I've communicated in the past through the manager's report and then also through the updates, what the city is doing in regards to the coronavirus. And tonight, really in an abundance of precaution, I'm actually going to be asking council, instead of doing a formal resolution to go through first reading and second reading and adoption, to consider a resolution that would allow, and I'm going to read this because I worked with the attorney late this afternoon, to allow remote participation in city council or remote participation of city council members at a city council meeting when conditions or situations such as in-person presentation is not possible or really conducive due to potentially a quarantine, mass sickness, natural disasters, or other similar circumstances. Triggering of this situation shall be made by the mayor in consultation with the city manager, and only in compliance with the Open Meetings Act can be only when the compliance with the Open Meetings Act can be maintained, including two-way communication. Again, I'm recommending that council consider just making a formal resolution. The attorney can elaborate. The Open Meeting Act does, it's kind of silent on remote meeting, and my preference is to always have in-person meetings. I feel that the communication's there. However, I don't want council, if we do happen to, with this particular virus or maybe even another disaster, not have the option really to at least consider doing remote meetings for council. I'm not recommending this for any other board or commission. I feel the responsibility and duty of our really our body of the city needs to continue on, and I think if the historical meeting doesn't happen for a delayed period, that's okay. However, our work, other than using the provision right now that the manager would have emergency power, I would like the ability to at least really have a meeting with you guys and actually go through different topics and that sort of stuff. So I don't know if Attorney Crowd, if there's anything else you would add, but I'm trying to make this very specific to emergency situations, again, potentially a quarantine, a natural disaster or similar circumstances.
Yeah, so this isn't, when City Manager Wing asked me to put this together, the idea was not someone's going on vacation and so I want to participate remotely. That's not the intent. This is truly a situation where the conditions out there are such that you really shouldn't have an in-person meeting, or it makes it abundantly very difficult. And so it's not just a I'm out of town, can I participate? The Open Meetings Act is always prefers in person, and but it does. There are some Attorney General opinions that have recognized that with technology that this is possible with two-way, especially with video or Skype. You can do that, and the idea is whoever can make it. But if this situation is declared, then at least the business of the city can continue in that format. We did provide, I think the city manager provided some materials in the manager report about how other communities have. It's not exactly this issue, but whether it's some of them do allow for up to X amount of people to automatically participate remotely, as long as there's a quorum that's actually physically here. And that really wasn't the intent. The intent is, can we get a meeting together? If the mayor talking to the city manager declares that there is a situation that we need to respond to. It's not safe to, or they recommend, I think the manager used the word soft quarantine to, maybe it's not the best idea to have a whole group of people here. So that's the intent. So it would be a very limited and hopefully never used situation, but city manager said we'd like to at least have something on the record that we can do this, and that was open to the public to do it. The meeting would always still be open to the public. People could always come in and engage just like normal, but this is a special provision.
And I'd just say when the city manager asked me about it, it made perfect sense. This is just an emergency, not just a normal meeting. So I think that sounds like a plan to me.
So we just need, as a resolution, just a motion and then a second, and then the clerk would be able, for the record, to officially, so we would be able to have this on the books.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Continuing and just have a little bit more follow-up on this particular topic. So the city has continued to monitor news sources and receive agency updates from the CDC, World Health Organization, as well as the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and our Oakland County Health Department. We have our police and fire departments in coordination with our local hospital, as well as other agencies, as we gather the latest information and get guidance. Tomorrow morning, we'll be releasing a dedicated webpage to this specific information that will spell out and provide practical advice for our residents and businesses. We'll also be taking some additional steps with our staff as we prepare. Really, what I would say is plan, prepare, and then be able to respond. So I guess a little bit more of my old Boy Scout and then some of the national management training that I've gone through. In the meantime, there are resources, again, through the CDC and other sources that are available that will be linking widgets and providing other information. So right now, it's more just plan and be prepared. There are not any known cases in the state of Michigan as of today's date. But again, having a plan and being prepared is I feel, very prudent. The final, which is on a different topic, is there was a typographical error in the ballot question that was approved by the city council in regards to the OPC. So I placed at everybody's spot here this evening to have, well, it's noted and color corrected, but to have officially on the record this adjustment and this typo fixed. Renee, the director, asked me to just follow up and apologize for this error, as it was missed by both her staff and mine when we actually presented it earlier this year.
Very good.
And I guess, Attorney Kratt, we need to, again, make a motion to approve the corrected ballot question, and I don't know if you want to provide any comments. I know you've been included in our conversation with the director over at the OPC.
Yeah, I would suggest a motion just to make a clean action, which is would allow everything to move forward. The actual numbers and assessment, it's not changing. It's just, when you talk about how, what dollar amount per thousand, and they missed some or added some zeros in there where they shouldn't have. So the actual presentation doesn't change. The amount that they're seeking doesn't change. It's just the actual wording for the ballot. In Rochester Hills, had the same issue that they've cleaned up or are cleaning up. So I would just say a motion to approve the numbers as intended would be appropriate.
And make a motion to approve the numbers as intended for the OPC millage.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Salvia, support by Councilmember Peterson. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Bevacqua,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Keithley,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
Then I'm done.
Very good. I just would like to say, Madam Clerk, thank you very much for your help tonight.
You're
You did a
welcome.
great job.
Thank you.
And I think if the other city clerk was here, she'd say there's an election tomorrow.
Yep.
Get out and vote if you choose to.
Exactly what she said for me to say.
Oh, okay. Amazing I could predict that. Mr. City Attorney?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Assistant City Manager? Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder that Founder's Day is this Sunday. The presentation will be at the Rochester Hills Museum at Van Heusen Farm, and the presentation will be on the Detroit United Railway from 2 to 4 p.m.
Okay. And there's going to be Irish dancers there? I
Yes,
saw,
there
so?
will be Irish dancers.
All right. Very good. Councilmember Salvia?
Yes, just happy to announce that the Community House has elected 2 new board members. In the spirit of age diversity, we've elected Peter Boyce and Andrea Walker-Leidy. So long supporters of the Community House, but we are now age diverse.
Oh. Councilmember Albrecht?
That's all I have.
Age diverse.
I just wanted to remind all the residents that the Ludlow Tot Lot, we had a great presentation last meeting. We have a link on our website, a support letter example that you can cut and paste, add in your own commentary to that. The deadline for those letters is March 17th. Why these are important, they help build our sorry, there's a conversation. They help build our support to get these grants to pay for a large share of this tot lot. This is an outdated tot lot that needs new equipment, ADA compliant equipment, so it's wonderful. The more support we get, the better our chances. There will be a public hearing at the March 23rd City Council meeting on the tot lot for those people who want to hear about it. It's all good stuff. Secondly, I wanted to thank city manager and the residents for allowing Amanda, or my fellow city council member, and myself to attend the Elected Officials Academy last weekend in Frankenmuth. That was amazing. I mean, there was 6 2-hour sessions. Nothing better I wanted to do on the weekend than sit in class for a day and a half, but truly learning about all those things will help make both of us better representatives of the citizens and residents of Rochester. Thank you.
And thank you guys for taking the time for that. Councilmember Keithley?
I'd just like to echo Councilmember Albrecht that the Michigan Municipal League training weekend was very valuable for me, especially as a new council member, and learning so much about different zoning boards and budgeting was important information that we took away, and I think some leadership skills got developed. So it was a great experience. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Peterson?
Just want to add that today, every second Monday, I am Chair of Government Affairs Committee at the North Oakland County Board of Realtors, and today we actually had Senator Ruth Johnson in, who gave an incredible presentation regarding the 5229 House Bill and 5550, and enlightened the committee regarding how much so many of our municipalities in the state have outstanding legacy debt, okay, to where that was one of the key components that might have been rolled into those bills at that time. So glad we were able to reach out and have her come in and actually, thank her very much for all her work on that as well as, everyone else who did that, because it was, until there's a real plan that actually protects the residents and keeps them in their home instead of taxing them out of their home. I think that was the biggest takeaway. She also spoke very highly of Sue Ann for the work that they've done together on many of these initiatives as well to take care and protect the residents of the state. So it was very good. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bavacqua?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Anything from the audience? Ms. Douglas?
Sorry I was late for the first one, but I just have to say, tomorrow's Super Sneaky Text Tuesday, so everybody get out and vote. And please take advantage of the MML and their conferences. They have fantastic stuff. You will learn so much from that. I still have opinions and things tucked away in files that are still valid. And it's really helpful. So you're a member, so use it.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
I'd just like to say, Sunday, along with Anthony, I attended the pancake breakfast at the firehouse. Of course, Anthony was actually working. I wasn't doing anything. But they had a charity theme to it for breast cancer awareness. The place was packed, and they had a DJ for the first time, which was I thought was pretty neat. So it was a great turnout,
Innovative.
a great event, and we talk about front porch issues and things like that. Really, the pancake breakfast at the fire hall is a quintessential Rochester event. So good job to the fire department. And that, having said that, now we are going to need a motion to go into
Closed session.
closed session without the thought of returning.
Motion?
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Peterson. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
I think we just have to say it's for, to discuss attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
Attorney-client privilege.
Topic.
Madam Clerk.
Dixon?
Yes.
Bavakwa?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Keithley?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a break and then we'll.